Hello, everybody. I'm glad that you are here with me today. We're going to talk about crisis situations in schools and community. And more importantly, we're going to talk about how counselors are deeply involved in managing these crises. So, we're going to talk about counselor responsibilities, crisis intervention strategies, collaboration with community partners, and our role in school crisis plans. Crisis situations can happen anywhere, from natural disasters to violence to personal tragedies. A well prepared counselor can make the difference between chaos and stability, between prolonged trauma and healing. And that's why knowing our roles in crisis planning is essential. Crisis can take many forms. We often think of natural disasters or acts of violence, but crisis can also be individual, like suicide or serious illness. As counselors, we have to be ready to respond to any of these. In a crisis, the counselor acts fast. We help make sure that students and staff are physically and emotionally safe, connect people to services, and keep an eye on the mental health impact long after the news cameras are gone. No one handles a crisis alone. Counselors collaborate with school leadership, police, fire departments, mental health agencies, and community organizations. We're part of a web of support, not a solo act. Community outreach isn't just something we do after a tragedy. It's about preparing families, building trust with agencies, and making sure resources are ready when needed. Proactive outreach is prevention. Counselors have a seat at the table when it comes to emergency management. We help write policies, practice drills, and ensure that mental health care is part of the emergency response. After immediate physical safety is secured, emotional and psychological support is critical. Psychological first aid helps us stabilize students and staff. We also offer follow up counseling and connect people to longer term mental health care. Trauma informed care reminds us that everyone processes crises differently. Students may not react normally, and that's okay. We meet them where they are with patience and without judgment. After big disasters, mental health needs can overwhelm schools. Community based disaster response involves working with larger organizations to meet students and family needs at scale. A strong crisis plan covers all four stages: prevention, preparation response, and recovery. Counselors play a vital role at every step, from assessing threats to helping students heal. In a school crisis, counselors don't just react. We're part of the proactive team. We help students transition back to learning, support grieving or traumatized kids, and push for changes that make schools safer. Scenario 1. Imagine a fight breaks out on campus and escalates into violence. Your role as a counselor includes helping secure safety, supporting students emotionally during the lockdown, and organizing debriefing sessions afterwards. Later, you'd work with the administration and families for recovery support. So here's something that actually happened to me. Natural disaster. It was a tornado. After a tornado, many students may be homeless or grieving. As counselors, we coordinate with shelters, provide group counseling sessions, and advocate for flexible school supports like clothing drives, trauma screenings, and academic adjustments. In Tuscaloosa on April 27, 2011, I was a school counselor at Myrtlewood Elementary when the devastating tornado hit Tuscaloosa. Many of our students were upset and scared. I worked with them to help process their feelings, taught them coping strategies, and showed them ways they could help the community rebuild and heal. So, one of the first things that I did when the kids came back after the tornado was to help them understand what a tornado is, because most kids didn't even know what had happened. So, I put together this little presentation. The first part is I had these cartoon people. We have Miss Hot Wind and Mr. Cold Wind. And he says, Miss Wind, would you dance with me? And they dance. And they start dancing too fast. And then they're having so much fun, they start to spin. And the scenes went on until scene 7. And oh no! The rain starts to fall and the dancers start to spin and it comes all the way down to the ground. And that's what a tornado is. So breaking this down into smaller parts help them understand what had happened. Another slide that I was talking about feelings and emotions. I wanted them to understand that everybody sees a disaster differently. You might see some people crying and wailing, but then you may see people who are grieving for a lost loved one or a pet, and then some people may not feel like talking about anything at all. I also wanted to let them know that they can help, even though they're not very big. And so these are the ways that I said they could help. Get ready for future events by restocking your disaster supplies and plan a family disaster plan. Doing these things, even though they're small, can kind of be comforting. And your school counselor, she's always going to be there. I wanted them to know that. I gave them an assignment. They needed to write a journal article about their tornado experience. So, depending on the age range, I said, hey, do me a drawing, write me a story, tell me about what it was like for you and your family. And then I went around to the different classrooms to hear all the stories about what they wrote and drew. Another scenario is student suicide. Suicide in a school community is devastating. Immediately after a popular student's death, many students and staff experience intense grief, confusion, and fear. But it's also important to recognize that not every student will react the same way. Some students may resent the constant attention given to the deceased, especially if they had negative experience with them. As counselors, we have to be sensitive to the entire school climate, validating grief where it exists, but also creating space for complex emotions like resentment or indifference. At the same time, we monitor students closely for suicide contagion and make sure the messaging focuses on support and prevention, not glamorization. Here we have scenario 4, the threat of violence. When a threat is made, counselors help calm fears, provide factual updates in collaboration with administrators, with administrators, offer crisis counseling, and help staff identify students who may need extra support. Here's scenario 5, as we experienced in 2020. During the coronavirus pandemic, schools were forced to close, creating fear, isolation, and major disruptions for students and families. School counselors played a vital role during this time. We offered virtual counseling services, organized mental health check ins, connected families to food and housing resources, and helped teachers identify students who needed extra support. Counselors also helped schools design re entry plans that were trauma informed and flexible to meet students' emotional needs after months of disruption. These are some of my favorite key resources that you can turn to for training, support, and materials. The first one is the National Center for School Crisis and Bereavement. This is a great place because you can go to it when an emergency is actually happening, but you can also go to it before something happens, and it gives you kits on how to start to prepare and make a crisis plan. The second one is the American School of Counseling, School Counselors Crisis Response Planning Toolkit. So you can go onto their site at schoolcounselor.org and pull that off and use that as you're making a crisis plan for your school. The last one that I really like is the Trevor Project. This is something that supports the LGBTQ youth community, and it's trevorproject.org. So, our key takeaways. Whether it's a small incident or a major disaster, counselors have a major role in making sure students, families, and staff feel supported and safe. It's a team effort. It's about staying student-centered, trauma-informed, and always improving. If you have any questions for me, you can always send me an email at moon@ulm.edu, and I'm happy to chat with you.